welcome back to the shop. It's a Happy New Year, everybody. This will be probably the second video of 2023. So last video you saw I brought home some new treasures, if you will. If you didn't, you're gonna have to go back and check that out. I covered up the other one, so you're not gonna be able to tell. If you can tell, then just put it in the comments, and let's see who gets it right. So you're playing on Marketplace, and you're scrolling through there, and you're looking for a new project, and sometimes you get caught up. Yeah, well, I got caught up. I've wanted a second Gen R for a long time, and probably could have waited, but I found a diamond in the rough, I think. Let me tell you what I got. Look what I got. 1984 Honda 250R second gen. I've wanted one of these for a while now. Still learning a lot with the two strokes and the differences and so forth. You know, we have the 86, and what's funny is the 86 came to me in January of 2022, and it's just been a ball ever since. And here we are, January again, 2023, and I found myself with a new project, another 250R. It's about 90% here, which is a good place to start. Everything seems to be in order. Everything's the same amount of dirty, you know. We are missing a chain. Somebody's pulled the chain off of it. Yeah, and looks like somebody got their welder out too. So we're gonna have some work cut out fixing that. Wow, I think somebody wasn't a very good welder. So we what they did, I think, is going to be easy enough to fix. We can just cut these little burrs off that they put on, and then you have an actual bracket that comes around and holds that on. It's a $9 part, y'all. Don't weld your sprockets on, please. $9. Dang. So I've already ordered a sprocket, a retainer, a chain, and a rear sprocket. We're just going to start this off right. So if we get it to run, it won't be moving, but at least we can kind of see what we have laying around, you know. So let's see what we're working with here. Carburetor choke does seem to stay up and work. Throttle is sticking. You open it, you let off, and it comes back real slow. So certainly don't want to run it like, you know, once we get there is going to be pull that slide and see what we're working with. So the tank is pretty rough. It's a cool conversation piece, and it's really hard to get the cap off, and it's rusted inside pretty bad. It could probably be saved, but it's pretty rough. So we've got a front end. The front end has got some rust. It's got some pitting up here, but down where the fork boots are, it actually looks really good. The chrome is still in place. It's, you know, I don't see any really deep pitting, what I can tell at this point. We're missing fenders front and rear, and we all know that second gen fenders, OE fenders, are valuable. And probably this thing quit running, and somebody came along and they said, hey, I'll sell the fenders off of it and I'll make a little money. And along that, they said, well, hey, I'll sell the gold wheels off the back, and you know, that'll make a little money too. And then, you know, somebody probably bought it and they tried to rehab it and run it again, and they probably put these on. These look like some 300 EX wheels or maybe some 400 EX wheels, I'm not sure. But the front wheel looks great. It's the gold is really nice. The anodized color is really good. It's dirty, of course, and the wheel is not round, but that front wheel looks really good. Brakes intact, brake lines. These are all things you need to look for. You know, cables, clutch work. There's a brake work. We do not have. We got the little, you know, pass-through brake system there. So we've ordered another one of those. I've already done a quick run around just to kind of see the big stuff once we get it running, to get it moving. And so that's going to be chain and brakes. You know, we don't know the condition of the clutch. I did check the airbox at the seller's house, and here's why. Because whatever was in there, I didn't want to bring it home. We had that happen once already. So while I was there and talking to the seller, he actually had another engine. So we have a secondary engine that is somebody's been in it, but it's all here. But it's still very valuable if you need a cylinder or you need a head. or whatever you might need. Those are really good parts to have. Studying this a little bit, I'm not keen. I'm not versed on second gen R's. Somebody, y'all sure you can put it in the comments. I'm thinking this is a first gen motor. I don't think this is the OE motor. And I could be completely wrong on that. I think the head may be different. But see how it's all been painted red at some point in time? Now that was one of the characteristics from an 81, 82. 83, 84 should have been black. So there, I know there's black on there too, but you know, we're building a case here. What are we working with? So that said, when you're looking at a project like this, things I look for, and we've talked about this before, your money is tied up in your tank, your seat, and your fenders. And so this machine has to be cheap because it's missing those three items. And it would be cheap if you were to see this on the open market and this is all you had to work with. It should represent or should reflect that lesser price point, because to buy a tank, a seat, and fenders for this machine, you're looking at well over $1,000. Probably $4 for a tank, you know, a nice tank. Another $3 or $4 for a seat, a nice seat. And then I know that the plastics on this run about $600. So actually you're over $1,000 just in those three pieces. So keep those kinds of things in mind. It's easy to kind of say, well, I'll just grab, you know, I'll get on eBay and I'll grab some fenders. And you can do that. And you can get great fenders on eBay, but they're not free. So the reason I bought that tank or bought that machine is because it came with a couple other things that I haven't showed you yet. We have this beautiful, completely redone tank. Very, very nice. Definitely worth a pretty penny. A nice restored tank, if you will. Very nice tank. And it also came with this seat here sitting on top of my 350X. It is not an OE seat, but it was professionally done. It's a nice looking seat. Pan's in good shape. Pan for this particular machine is plastic, so they last a really long time, as long as your dog didn't get a hold of them or you didn't, you know, sling them out the back of the truck or something. So we've got a great seat and a great tank, and all of a sudden this machine starts looking more valuable because of that. So let's see what else we got. Let's see what we're working with. So the first order for business for me is I always kind of like to go through the systems, and I take each system separately. I like to go after spark first. I think it's the hardest to obtain, and the reason being is because there's so many moving parts with spark. You've got your stator, your wiring harness, your CDI, you got your kill switch, you've got your spark plug, you've got your coil. There's just a lot of, they're not all moving, I understand, but there's a lot of parts involved with getting spark as opposed to compression. Well, compression is going to be, on this motor, is going to be piston or ring, cylinder. That's it, you know. Fuel is going to be carburetor. You know, that's really about it. Maybe delivery if you've got a plugged up tank or something. And this is a rough machine, you know. If you're not wanting a challenge, then don't buy a machine like this. Go buy a machine that's already running. If your objective is to, I want to ride this weekend, then this is not the buy for you. You need to go spend a little bit more money. You need to go find something that's already running. So this is something that you buy, someone like me. You need it cheap and you enjoy the challenge. And for me, that checks all the boxes. It's a really cool machine. It's got great bones. The frame is in really good shape. It's all here. It should run. Let's just go right after it. Let's see if we got spark. All right, so the first thing we're going to want to do is get your tank, your seat, and your fenders out of the way. You don't need any of this for a while. These second gens are a little snug in here. Really a lot like the first gens, just not a lot of room. Look at your wiring when you're inspecting a machine. You know, some of these things, it's easy to say, but it's just really hard to do when you're caught up in the moment of buying something. Take a moment, take a deep breath, walk away, walk back over to the machine with a clear set of eyes and really look and scrutinize it. Is the electronics in it? You know, have somebody monkeyed with them? Is there duct tape and splices that shouldn't be here that the factory didn't put in? You know, if the machine's running and you see that kind of stuff, then maybe it's not as necessarily a bad thing. But if the machine's not running, then you are opening yourself up for, you know, potential problems. Let's say that. So always keep an eye out for things that aren't OE, that the Honda didn't do, that somebody's come along and you know, tried to fix. You know, cables is one thing, but electrical, certainly you need to be mindful of that. All right, so I think the best thing to do is always start with checking the oil. Sometimes I get a little ahead of myself. I think that's probably the most important thing. You don't want to be kicking a machine over and it not have any oil in it, because you know the guy before you didn't put any oil in it. On your 250Rs, they're pretty straightforward. You've got, it generally says it right somewhere on the engine. On your third gen R, it's on the right side. On the second gen, it's here on the left. It should be on the left also on your first gen. You take this screw out. Now when you're doing an old screw, specifically, get the best screwdriver you have. You know, a JIS screwdriver is a great screwdriver. You want a screwdriver that fits in there really, really good, because you really get kind of one shot at this. So before I take a screw loose, I put my screwdriver on it, and then I tap it really good on the end with a hammer or something lightly, but send it kind of a shock wave into the engine, into that screw, and kind of vibrate everything there, because you're fixing to break it loose, and we don't know how long it's been since it's been loose. So this one came right out following that technique. Now as I pull this out, we should expect oil to run out, and we've got oil and looks like water in here. So it's really, really thin, and that's not a good thing. So at one point in time, this engine has been open to the elements. Yeah, there's as much water in there as there is oil. All right, so that's not great, but you know, it's not the end of the world either. So moving on, we know that it has a liquid in it pretending to be oil. This of course would be your oil fill cap. That is something to keep in mind, that on this particular machine, the only way to check the oil level is that, and the dipstick doesn't have a finger on it to visibly look at the oil. So really the only way to see the oil, verify what the oil looks like, is to pull that drain plug. Don't know if the seller's going to let you do that or not. All right, well, we've kind of got a strike one. We certainly aren't going to run it until we change the oil, but that's not the end of this. So I feel confident enough we can kick it over without causing any more damage to the engine. So I've already broken this free. Let's see how it was running the last time it did run. Not terrible. Running rich, but that's to be expected. It smells like old gas. Not awful. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of dry this off with a paper towel, and we're going to check for spark. And this applies to 2-stroke, 4-stroke. You know, all we're wanting to do is we're wanting to verify what works and what doesn't. This is all kind of discovery at this point. So what I like to do is I'll take the spark plug, I'll just put it right back in the boot, and I like to use the plug that's with the machine. It's already right here. Before you go spending money on spark plugs, you know, let's see what works. All right, let's see what we've got spark. Well, there you go. We got spark. One kick. That's great. If you're not sure about how to check spark, that's okay. The plug needs to be touching something metal. It needs to be grounded, so the circuit goes all the way from the stator to your CDI, all through the wiring harness, back to the plug, and back to something grounded. You can stick it up here on the frame. You can put it on the engine. I generally just put it somewhere on the engine, somewhere that it will balance. And if you look between the electrode and the strap, we're looking for spark. And we have very good spark. Okay, so now we're 1-1 and lost one. So let's follow that up with a compression test. Now this will tell us everything we need to know. You can pick these up at any little parts store. They're not that expensive. The ends are interchangeable. They have little adapters that go on the end of it. Different size equipment has different size spark plugs. So the most important thing is when you screw in your leader hose, be sure that the O-ring goes all the way down to the head. Otherwise you're going to have a big leak. This particular machine, I have not checked the book on it, and so for a machine that looks as bad as this one, I would be happy with anything over, you know, anything over 110 would be really nice. So I'm going to set that there. Y'all watch that. I'll come around and kick it. So when you do this, there's a couple things you're going to want to make sure. You want to make sure that the choke is off, that butterfly is completely open and not in the way obstructing airflow. You also want to make sure your throttle is open all the way. I've already checked this, but it's, you know, never hurts to check again. I checked it at the seller's house. Be sure that there's not a big mouse nest or something in there, and you don't want to suck up a bunch of dirt either. So if you've got an old element sitting there that's falling apart and crumbling, go ahead and take it off. You want clean air to be going through your engine. So we've got our gauge, and it resets by pressing this little black button on the side if you don't know. I'm going to kick it about 7 to 10 times. We are hoping for around 120 to 150 psi. Let's see. Throttle is open. Choke is off. Verify that the choke is off. All right. Throttle open. All right. Well, I'm happy about that. Wow, that almost looks too good. Let's check it out again. I'm going to get turned around where I'm not kicking backwards on this thing. That was an awkward kick there, so I don't want to do that. It almost sounded like it wanted to run. That second kick, it kind of wanted to do something, it looked like. All right. Well, good. Hopefully my leg wasn't in the way there. So, you know, I will say, if this hasn't been ran in years, and apparently it hasn't. The story I got, it hasn't ran in many years. Ran when parked, they said. All that water that came out when we checked the oil, the truth we'll find out when we drain the oil. Not just check it, but drain it. That oil could have separated. Condensation over the years, hot and cold changes can create condensation inside the engine and therefore water in the oil. We've got great compression, 170 psi. That's amazing. I did not expect that. We've got great spark. I think we got this. I don't want to say it yet. I don't want to say it. One of the things you need to check about spark, and we didn't do it yet, but I'm going to, is you need to make sure that your kill switch will turn off the spark. Before you get ready to light one of these things off, you need to make sure that when you hit the kill switch, you no longer have spark. So I feel confident in going to the next step. And the next step in this case is to pull that carburetor off. Go through it, find out why it's, you know, the throttle is slow to return. I might get lucky. I'll pull the slide out first, and if that can be cleaned and put back in, and that takes care of it, then I won't pull the carb off. Let's mix up some 2-stroke fuel. Now, probably going to want to put, the frame's going to say 20 to 1. I have on it on good authority that you need to run 50 to 1 or 40 to 1 with these modern oils. They are not the oils that these machines were made around. There's a lot more technology in oil today than you know, ever before. All right, well, things are really looking good. I've just pulled the slide out, and I wanted to inspect the slide. You know, we noticed that the throttle was sticky, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's in the carburetor. It could be in the thumb throttle. It could be in the cable. Maybe somebody left a spring out. It feels, you know, like it's sticky. You know, it's just not working properly. So I like to pull the slide out and just kind of let it dangle, and then work the throttle and look at the throttle. It's coming back real slow, and then it pops. So what that tells me is the cable is hung up. And if you look really close, we've got some rust on our cable, so we need a throttle cable. That's what our problem is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray some lubricant up in there. I don't have another throttle cable for it right now. And, you know, is it going to fix it? No. Will it get us through this video? Yes. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm just going to use my favorite PB Blaster. It's just, I like it. it works really good. And what I want to do is I want to get it in the cable housing itself and just kind of let it creep down in there. And so you could actually kind of just set this up with some penetrating lubricant or some PV blaster and just kind of fill that little cup up, and as you see, it's going to drain back as it goes through. If the obstruction or the rough area is in this lower section, we have a pretty good chance of kind of making it better for today. This is not a fix. We need a cable, certainly on a 2-stroke especially, but any motor vehicle, you do not want a sticky throttle. It's not even something to even consider, whether it's your grip, you know, rubbing down here on your throttle, thumb throttle, or it's a bad cable, or just a gummed up carburetor. Please don't ever just think it's going to go away, because it's not. So what do we got? We need to really change the oil. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to drain what's on here. Whatever comes out of the check plug is actually above full. So maybe it's just condensation. All right, guys, went ahead and changed the oil. I couldn't run it, you know, with a clear conscience, knowing that oil had water in it. If this thing lights off and runs for any length of time, I want that oil to get there and get worked into all those nooks and crannies. It hasn't seen oil in so long. I know it hasn't ran in 2 years. That's what the seller told me. He said when he got it, he was told that it ran, but you know, it looked just like this. So if it ran, it didn't move, at least not under its own power. I'm excited about it. You know, there's a lot of things. There's a big difference between will it run and will it drive, you know, or does it run? You know, that's a whole nother question. But yeah, I think this is going to work. Let's see what happens. I got some fuel mixed up here, 50 to 1. I don't have a lot, so it's not going to run for very long. Ignition on, choke on, throttle. We can't floor it because it'll stick. I always do a prime kick. That's just me. Come on, man. Ooh, throttle stuck. All right, let's try it without the choke. Likes the choke. All right. Will it run? Yeah. Will it fill up a shot full of smoke? Yeah, to do that too. All right, I'm gonna step out here where I can breathe a little bit. Check that out, y'all. That's what it's about. That's what it's all about. You find them, derelict condition. You know, you go through the steps, find spark. You know, on a 2-stroke, just go through what you need. You know, check your compression. They're not all gonna run, but you would be surprised at how many that do. Wow, it needs a lot of work, but it runs. That carburetor is all out of whack. Curtie, check your mailbox. That's going to be coming real soon. If you need a carburetor worked on, or you can even buy a new one, check out 223cycles.net. That's our sponsor for the channel, and good friend Curtie over at 223 Cycles. Wow, that's it. All right, guys, tomorrow, that's going to be fun. What do you mean tomorrow? We're going to start tonight. I'm going to go get on the, interwebs there, and we're going to, them handlebars are whack. I just noticed that. Have you ever walked past something over and over and over, and then finally when you see it, you're like, how in the world did I not notice that before? Look at those handlebars. That right handlebar is like 45 degrees to the left one. Look at that one compared to that one. Not a problem. We got bars. No, so this is the fun part for me, really, the discovery. Is it gonna run? What's it gonna take to run? I've got a project in the shop right now. It's gonna be a while before it runs, but this runs. Wow. Like I said, I've ordered chain and sprockets already. Things we need to check. I've got to get a clutch cable. I don't know if the clutch is any good. We don't know if the transmission's any good. We're not out of the woods yet, but I feel pretty confident that we're closer than we were. So, wow, outstanding. Thank you all for a great 2022. This is how you start off 2023 right here. It really is. Bring in an R and revive it from the dead. And I didn't really do anything. I just went through the steps. I made sure everything was right before we tried to start it. And like I said, it's not rebuilt yet. But at 175 PSI compression, let's get some more runtime on it. We'll check it again and see where that falls. It may come down. It may go up a little bit. I don't know how fresh the motor is. I just don't know. There's no way to know, really. I'm certainly not going to tear it apart to find out. It looks like we're going to need some tires and some fenders and some brake lines and some handlebars and a master cylinder and brake shoes and fenders and petcock and gas tank cap and fuel line and fuel filter and brake line and rear master cylinder and 2 rear tires and 1 front tire. And as always, thank you for liking and sharing and subscribing. Please share the content. It helps the channel grow. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the content. We're going to keep pulling these old 80s model rigs out of the woods and see what we can make out of them. I want to see what this is going to do around the track. I've been told that the second Gen R and the first Gen R are actually better woods machines than the third Gen R because of when the power comes on. So if you've got any experience with that, be sure and put it in the comments. That's what I've been told. This may be a little quicker than the 86 just because I really can't open it up. By the time I'm shifting into fourth, I've got to hit the brakes and make a turn. So this power might be better used on a short track, a tight track. The 200X laid down the fastest lap out there, the least powered machine, but I was able to keep it open longer and maintain that momentum and brake less. And this may be the new track champion. I'm excited to find out. Thank you. Y'all have a great day. I don't know what to say. Bye.